Hey there. Looks like we're taking a deep dive into FIRE this time. Financial independence? Retire early? You've given us some really interesting sources to work with.
Yeah.
YouTube videos from creators like Next Level Life and Mr. Money Mustache.
Right.
Even Humphrey Yang, and then you threw in Mark Cuban, too.
Yeah,
The fascinating range of perspectives on retiring early.
definitely.
We'll do our best to unpack it all for you.
Absolutely.
It seems like you're interested in not just the mechanics of retiring early, but also the philosophies behind it and whether it's really attainable for everyone.
That's right.
So let's jump right in.
It's clear you're looking for more than just surface-level FIRE advice.
Right.
So let's start with a core question. What does FIRE actually mean?
Okay, so it's not just about quitting your job at 30 and living on a beach, right?
Right.
What makes it different from just regular retirement planning?
You're right. It's a lot more nuanced than that.
Okay.
At its heart, FIRE is about aggressively saving and investing to reach a point where your investments can cover all your expenses.
Okay.
This gives you the option to retire early or, as many people emphasize, the choice to work or not.
Right.
It's about financial freedom and flexibility.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm already seeing some differences in the approaches from these creators.
Yeah.
Daniel from Next Level Life, for example, talks about 10 different levels of financial independence.
Right.
Is that just a way to make FIRE less intimidating, or is there something more to it?
I think Daniel's levels serve a few purposes.
Okay.
They acknowledge that financial independence isn't an all-or-nothing concept. It's a spectrum, and everyone's goals and timelines will differ.
Right.
You've highlighted some of his levels that might be relevant to you.
Yeah?
Financial solvency, stability, debt freedom, then coasting FI,
Okay.
all building up to full financial independence.
Right.
He uses a real-life example of a couple,
Okay.
John and Jane, to illustrate these stages, and their progress is pretty remarkable.
Okay, the story sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So what did they actually do?
Well, John and Jane started by tackling their debt aggressively.
Oh,
Credit cards, car loans, you name it.
wow.
They even sold their cars and took on extra work
Oh, wow.
to become debt-free in just 22 months.
Okay.
Then they channeled that same energy towards investing, reaching coasting FI in under 4 years.
Wow, 4 years. That's a much faster timeline than I think most people associate with FIRE.
Yeah.
But hold on.
Yeah.
What exactly is coasting FI?
That's a great question.
Okay.
It's a level where your investments are projected to cover your retirement expenses,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe not right now.
Okay.
So John and Jane reached a point where they could theoretically stop working
Okay.
and let their investments compound until their official retirement age.
Right.
But they also have the freedom to explore different career paths or work less
Okay.
without worrying about their income.
So they're not technically retired, but they have options.
Right.
I can see why that would be appealing.
Yeah,
It feels more attainable than the stereotypical image of FIRE.
definitely.
But let's get into the practicalities for a second.
Right.
How do people figure out how much they need to save to actually achieve this?
Right.
I've heard about something called the 4% rule.
Mm-hmm.
Both Humphrey Yang and Mr. Money Mustache talk about it.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Okay.
The 4% rule is definitely a cornerstone of many FIRE plans,
Right.
but it's often oversimplified.
Okay.
It suggests that you can safely withdraw 4% of your investment portfolio each year without running out of money,
Okay.
essentially living off the returns.
So if you know how much you spend each year,
Right.
you can calculate how much you need to have invested to support that.
Exactly.
Humphrey Yang even walks through a calculator example in one of his videos, which could be really helpful for our listeners as they think about their own numbers.
Definitely.
But is that 4% number set in stone?
It's important to understand that the 4% rule is based on historical market data, and it has its limitations.
Right.
It's a guideline, not a guarantee.
Okay.
Factors like inflation, market fluctuations, and unexpected expenses can impact the sustainability of a 4% withdrawal rate.
So even if you hit that magic number, there's more to it than just kicking back and relaxing.
Absolutely.
It sounds like frugality plays a big role in the FIRE movement, especially from what I've seen in the Mr. Money Mustache videos.
Right.
But isn't that just a nice way of saying you have to live like a pauper?
It's easy to misinterpret frugality as deprivation,
Okay.
but that's not what Pete Adini advocates for. He retired on a $67,000 salary,
Wow.
but not by denying himself basic needs. Instead, he focused on spending consciously and finding creative, cost-effective ways to live well.
Okay.
For example, he famously built his own kitchen
Really?
instead of buying expensive pre-made cabinets.
Oh, wow.
It's about resourcefulness and prioritizing what truly matters.
So he's making a distinction between being frugal and being cheap. That resonates with me. It's not about cutting out everything enjoyable. It's about finding joy in simpler things and spending money where it aligns with your values. Yeah, I think that's something you might connect with.
Yeah.
Given your interest in minimalism.
Possibly.
But honestly, all this focus on saving and side hustles, doesn't it sound a bit exhausting?
That's a valid point.
Okay.
Our Rich Journey video you provided actually addresses this.
Okay.
They discuss the less glamorous side of FIRE, the potential emotional adjustments, like anxiety about money even after reaching financial independence, or the relationship challenges that can arise from spending more time together as a couple.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not just about the numbers. It's a whole lifestyle shift.
Right.
And there are practical concerns too, right?
Absolutely.
Healthcare costs, unexpected expenses, inflation, eating away at your savings.
Exactly. Right. Our Rich Journey doesn't shy away from those realities. They point out that a lot of early retirement projections can be overly optimistic. Things like healthcare costs, especially in the U.S., can throw a big wrench into the plan.
Right.
And market downturns can happen, impacting your returns and potentially forcing you back to work.
So even if you're super disciplined and hit your FIRE number,
there
are still external factors you can't control.
That's right.
It definitely takes a certain personality type to be comfortable with that level of uncertainty. But this brings up a bigger question.
Yeah.
Is FIRE even realistic for most people?
Right.
Or is it just for high earners with a certain risk tolerance?
That's a question a lot of people have.
Right.
And it's one that the Plain Bagel video tackles head on.
Okay.
They're pretty skeptical of the idea that FIRE is a universally achievable goal.
Okay.
They argue that it often overlooks the role of privilege and circumstance.
So they're saying that just having the right mindset isn't enough.
Their critique is that the FIRE movement often simplifies things by framing it primarily as a mindset issue, while a positive attitude and a willingness to embrace frugality are important.
Right.
The Plain Bagel argues that it's not always that simple.
I can see their point.
Yeah.
Not everyone has the same opportunities, the same starting point, or the same level of risk tolerance. It seems like you're really interested in getting a balanced perspective on FIRE.
Absolutely.
And that includes understanding these critiques.
Yes.
Where do you think Mark Cuban's perspective fits into all of this? He's a billionaire now, but he was apparently all about saving aggressively in his 20s, aiming for early retirement. Is he just an outlier, or is there something we can learn from his story?
Cuban's story is interesting because it highlights that the principles behind FIRE can be valuable, even if you don't achieve full early retirement. He talks about his early days living like a student and how that intense focus on saving ultimately helped him launch his successful businesses. He might not have retired early in the traditional sense, but his financial discipline opened up opportunities.
So it's not just about the end goal. It's about the habits and mindset you develop along the way.
Exactly.
That's a good reminder for all of us, regardless of our financial goals.
I think so.
But let's get back to the specifics of FIRE.
Okay.
What are some of the common investment strategies people use? It sounds like you're particularly interested in diversifying beyond the stock market, and I'm curious about that too.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
You've hit on an important point. FIRE investing isn't just about stuffing money into a 401k. Your sources highlight a range of approaches, from the traditional index fund route to more unconventional strategies. And speaking of unconventional, you mentioned being intrigued by Pete Adney's approach?
Mr. Money Mustache doesn't just cut expenses. He's also built wealth in creative ways. Tell me more about his MMM World headquarters and how that fits into his FIRE strategy.
That's a great example of his approach. He started by paying off his mortgage quickly, turning his home into an asset that doesn't drain his finances. Then he transformed part of it into a co-working space, generating rental income.
So he's using his property and his skills to create income beyond traditional investments. That's a really interesting angle.
Definitely.
I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here already. Understanding what FIRE really means, exploring different levels of financial independence, and even starting to dive into the investment side of things. Where should we go from here?
I think it would be helpful to unpack those levels of financial independence a little further.
Okay.
We touched on John and Jane's journey to coasting FI.
Right.
But there's a lot more nuance to explore, especially as it relates to your own financial goals and aspirations.
That sounds great. Let's dig a little deeper into those levels and see how they might apply to you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then we can start to connect the dots between those levels and the specific strategies you can use to move towards them.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, so we're diving back into Daniel from Next Level Life and his 10 levels of financial independence.
Right.
Honestly, when I first saw that list, it felt a little overwhelming. Is this something you find helpful when you're working with people exploring FIRE?
I understand why it might seem daunting at first, but these levels can actually be a powerful tool for breaking down this massive goal, like financial independence, into smaller, more manageable steps.
Right.
Think of it like a roadmap with checkpoints along the way.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not about reaching the final destination immediately,
right,
but about making progress one step at a time.
Exactly.
Can we walk through some of these levels?
Sure.
And how they might apply to someone's journey?
Absolutely. You've already highlighted some that seem relevant to you.
Yeah.
Financial solvency, stability, debt freedom, coasting FI,
right,
and ultimately full financial independence. Let's start with the foundation.
Okay.
Financial solvency.
Okay, so what does it actually mean to be financially solvent?
At this level, you're essentially covering your basic expenses.
Okay.
And you aren't falling further into debt.
Right.
You have a stable income. You are paying your bills on time.
Right.
And ideally, you have a small emergency fund to handle those unexpected costs.
So it's not about being wealthy.
Right.
But about having a sense of control over your finances.
Exactly.
That feels achievable, even for someone just starting out.
Yeah.
What's the next step up?
The next level is financial stability.
Okay.
Here, you've built a more robust emergency fund, typically 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses.
Okay.
And you're starting to make progress on paying down those high-interest debts, like credit cards. You're actively managing your money and making conscious financial choices.
It sounds like this level is about building a buffer against unexpected events and reducing financial stress.
That's right.
I could see how that would create a sense of security and freedom to pursue other goals.
Yeah.
Where does debt freedom fit into this?
Debt freedom is a significant milestone on the path to financial independence.
Okay.
At this level, you've eliminated all high-interest consumer debt.
Right.
And potentially even tackled things like student loans or car loans.
Right.
This frees up a huge chunk of your income,
That's right,
allowing you to direct it towards savings and investments.
This is where John and Jane's story really resonated with me. They dedicated themselves to paying off all their debt in under 2 years.
Right.
Which seems incredible.
It's pretty amazing.
What can we learn from their approach?
Their story is a testament to the power of focused effort and a clear plan. They embraced frugality, they took on extra work, and they remained committed to their goal.
Right.
It wasn't always easy, but their dedication paid off.
Okay.
Both financially and emotionally.
It's a powerful reminder
Yeah.
that achieving significant financial progress is often more about behavior than income level.
I think so.
I love that. It's inspiring to see that even with a modest income, you can make a huge impact just by making conscious choices.
Absolutely.
And that's what allowed them to reach coasting FI in just a few years, right?
Exactly.
They channeled all that money they were previously putting towards debt payments into investments, accelerating their progress towards financial independence. And coasting FI is a really interesting stage.
It is.
You're essentially on track to reach your retirement goals without needing to make drastic changes to your lifestyle or work situation.
Yeah, it's a great spot to be in.
Okay, I'm still a little fuzzy on what coasting FI actually means.
Sure.
Can you break it down for me again?
Imagine this. You're comfortably meeting your current expenses. You have a solid investment portfolio.
Okay.
And your projected returns are on track to cover your future retirement needs.
Right.
At this point, you could technically coast.
Okay.
Keep working at your current pace and let your investments compound and still reach your financial goals.
So it's like being on autopilot.
Yeah.
But in a good way.
Exactly.
You have the security of knowing that you're on the right path. But you also have the flexibility to make changes if you want to.
That's right.
You might choose to continue working, but perhaps reduce your hours.
Right.
Or transition to a less demanding job.
Yeah.
Or even take a sabbatical to pursue other interests. Coasting FI gives you options and a sense of control over your future.
Exactly.
This is where things start to click for me.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about retiring early.
Right.
It's about reaching a level of financial security where you have choices.
I agree.
And those choices might evolve over time. You might choose to work longer than initially planned.
Right.
Or you might discover a new passion that requires a different approach.
Exactly.
You've hit on a crucial point.
Okay.
It's about aligning your financial strategy with your evolving values and goals.
That's right.
And this is where those higher levels of financial independence come into play.
Yeah.
We've discussed financial solvency, stability, debt freedom, and coasting FI.
Right.
But Daniel also talks about barista FI, lean FI, traditional FI, fat FI, and even levels like abundance and legacy.
Yes.
Okay, those names are definitely catching my attention.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a whole world of financial independence beyond just the basics.
Absolutely.
Let's explore some of these other levels and what they represent in the FIRE journey.
I'd love to. And we can talk about how those levels might resonate with your own aspirations and long-term vision.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Let's keep climbing this financial independence ladder.
Let's do it. And remember, even if full FIRE isn't your ultimate goal,
right,
understanding these different levels can help you tailor your financial strategy to achieve the level of freedom and flexibility you desire.
That's what I'm taking away from all of this.
Yeah.
It's not about following a rigid formula.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you and your unique circumstances.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about different levels of financial independence, from just getting by to coasting FI and beyond.
Right.
But now I'm really curious about the how.
Okay.
What are the actual strategies people use to reach these levels, especially when it comes to investing?
Yeah, that's where the rubber meets the road.
Right.
And it seems like you're particularly intrigued by those who diversify beyond the typical stock market investments.
Exactly. We've touched on index funds, but I'm fascinated by the alternative approaches.
Okay.
Like real estate or building income-generating assets. Those feel more tangible and less abstract than just picking stocks.
Right. Well, remember how we were discussing Pete Adeney?
Right. Mr. Money Mustache.
Yeah, his approach to building wealth goes way beyond just index funds.
Okay.
He's a great example of someone who's turned his frugality and resourcefulness into tangible assets.
Right. His MMM World Headquarters is a prime example.
Yeah, a great one.
It's not just his home. It's a multifaceted, income-generating property.
Exactly. He paid off his mortgage early.
Right.
Eliminating a huge expense. And then transformed part of his home into a co-working space.
Okay.
Generating rental income.
Oh, wow.
He also built his blog into a thriving business. Through affiliate marketing and partnerships.
So he's essentially created a mini real estate empire and a successful online business.
Right.
All while promoting his frugal lifestyle.
It seems like he's found the sweet spot between minimizing expenses and creating multiple streams of income.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
He's a master of leveraging his assets, his property, his skills, his online presence, to create a sustainable and diversified income stream.
Exactly.
And this ties back to the idea that FIRE isn't just about cutting costs. It's about building wealth in creative and often unconventional ways.
I agree.
That's what I find so inspiring about his approach.
Yeah.
It challenges the traditional notion of retirement planning. It's not just about working for 40 years and hoping your 401k will magically grow.
Right.
It's about taking control of your finances, being resourceful, and creating a lifestyle that supports your goals.
I think that's a really important point. His approach isn't just about making money.
Right.
It's about aligning your finances with your values.
Okay.
He finds genuine joy in building things himself, being frugal, and living a life that's less focused on material possessions.
It reminds me of Mark Cuban's live like a student philosophy.
Yeah, I see that.
They both seem to embrace this idea of prioritizing experiences and relationships over extravagant spending.
I think you've hit on a common thread among many successful FIRE advocates.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about the money. It's about the freedom and flexibility that financial independence provides.
Okay.
It's about having the time and resources to pursue your passions, spend time with loved ones, and contribute to your community in meaningful ways.
And that's what resonates with me the most. The idea of designing a life that aligns with my values and aspirations. It seems like FIRE provides a framework for achieving that.
Right.
Even if you don't necessarily retire early in the traditional sense.
I think that's a powerful realization. FIRE isn't a one-size-fits-all formula.
Okay.
It's a set of principles and strategies that you can adapt to your own unique circumstances and goals.
Right.
It's about taking control of your financial future and creating a life that you truly love.
I feel like we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We've explored different levels of financial independence, examined the nuances of the 4% rule.
Right.
And even delved into alternative investment strategies.
Yeah, it's been great.
What would you say are the key takeaways for someone like me who's just starting to explore the world of FIRE?
I think the most important takeaway is that FIRE is a journey, not a destination. It's about continuous learning, experimentation, and adjusting your approach as your needs and goals evolve.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to challenge conventional wisdom, explore different strategies, and find what works best for you.
I love that. It's about taking ownership of your financial future and creating a life that aligns with your values, whether that involves early retirement or simply achieving a greater level of financial freedom and flexibility.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
Okay.
There's a wealth of resources available, blogs, podcasts, online communities, full of people who are passionate about sharing their knowledge and experiences.
This deep dive has definitely opened my eyes to a whole new world of possibilities.
That's great to hear.
I feel inspired and empowered to take control of my finances and start building the life I want.
That's fantastic. And remember, the most important step is simply to get started. Even small changes like tracking your expenses, paying down debt, or starting a small investment account can have a huge impact over time.
I'm excited to take that first step. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be doing a deep dive into my own FIRE journey.
I have no doubt you'll achieve great things. Keep learning, keep experimenting, and keep that fire burning.
Thanks for guiding me through this fascinating exploration. Until next time.
It was my pleasure until then. Best of luck on your journey to financial freedom.